Hello everyone. How are you?
Hello.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. No, you cannot see me?
No,
Oh, I don't know why. Yeah. Can you see me now?
no,
Still no? Oh, okay. Let me turn that off and on again. Can you see me now?
yeah,
All right.
yes.
Sorry for that. How are you guys? Are you guys all right?
Yes, I'm good.
You?
What about
Yeah.
you?
Good. So my name is Gizem. We will have this class together, our workshop class together. If you want to tell me anything or ask me anything, you can use the chat box, or you can raise your hand and unmute yourself, and I will give you permission to speak. Both are fine. We will have our discussion essay class together. Let me share my screen really quickly so that we can start. Yes. All right. You can see the screen share, right? Yes. All right. Let's start with our band descriptors, which are basically the criteria that IELTS looks for in your writing. And this is for task 2. So before we start with band descriptors, I want to explain, for those of you who are new to IELTS exam, the concept of it. So in the writing exam, you get 2 tasks. The first task should take around 20 minutes, which is a shorter test, a shorter essay, basically. And in the second task, you will be asked for a longer essay. And this task usually actually weighs more in your band score. So this task is really the important part of IELTS writing, actually. And these are the 4 criteria that IELTS tests you on, which are public, so you can look for them online. When you type writing task 2 band descriptors like this, you will get this as a result. So you can see this anytime. So basically, the 4 criteria IELTS looks for are task response, coherence and cohesion, lexical resources, grammatical range, and accuracy. For task response, to get a, for example, band 7, you need to address all parts of the task, present a clear position throughout the response, present, extend, and support your main ideas, although there may be a tendency to overgeneralize and or supporting ideas may lack focus. Coherence and cohesion, basically, in this part, they look for your organization. So how you organize your essay matters for this criteria. So for band 7, you need to logically organize your information and ideas, and there should be a clear progression throughout your essay. And you need to also use a range of cohesive devices appropriately, although there may be some under or overuse. And lastly, you need to present a clear central topic within each paragraph. I see, Anna, you say you cannot hear me. Can anyone hear me? Or is it a common problem? Can you hear me?
I can
Yes?
hear you.
All right, so Anna, maybe it's something to do with your internet or your device. I don't know. Maybe you can log back in, come back again. Maybe that will fix things. I don't know. For lexical resource, basically, this is just a fancy way of saying vocabulary. To get a good grade, for example, a band 7 in lexical resources, you need to use a sufficient range of vocabulary to allow some flexibility and precision. You need to use less common lexical items with some awareness of style and collocation. And lastly, you may produce occasional errors in word choice and spelling and or word formation. So you can make some mistakes, but they're only occasional. And in grammatical range and accuracy, to get a band 7, you need to use a variety of complex structures, produce frequent error-free sentences, and you need to have basically a good control of your grammar and punctuation, but may, of course, make some errors. Do you have any questions regarding the band descriptors and how they evaluate your essay before we move on? You can use the chat box to ask me any questions. I constantly check them. All right, if not, let's move on to get these like in detail. So for task achievement, as we've said, we need to answer the question and understand the question type clearly. We need to make our position or opinion clear, and we need to use the correct essay structure, which is one introduction, two body paragraphs, and a conclusion. And lastly, for task achievement, we need to write more than 250 words. For coherence and cohesion, we need to plan our essay as a whole, so we need to have a clear organization throughout, and we need to give examples and provide evidences, and we need to be consistent throughout our essay. So we need to have that idea, our opinion, and we shouldn't change it basically. For lexical resources, we need to use a wide range of vocabulary. And of course, we can make some mistakes. IELTS does not look for like error-free essays, but they should be like rare minor errors. And we need to also make sure that we have a wide range of vocabulary and we need to use them precisely. So we need to use synonyms where possible. And some words may have no direct synonyms, but what we need to do is we try to rewrite the sentence when we don't know any synonyms of that word or there are no direct synonyms. And lastly, we need to try to use some uncommon words related to the subject. And I see that on the chat box you're asking for vocabulary suggestions. They usually change from essay type to essay type. So whichever essay type or topic that we get, we usually need to use different vocabulary. So one word or two words may be correct for all types of essays, but they do not actually give you points if they're not really consistent, if your vocabulary usage is not consistent throughout your essay. So basically, what I would advise you to do if you want to learn more vocabulary, learn more words that you can use on the exam, I would try to read as many essays as possible, which we will do today. We will try to write and read essays together, and I would try to learn those words in terms of their context. So on the topic, related to the topic they're used on, basically. So basically, advanced vocabulary is not just something that we can say, yeah, this is really advanced and you can use this in all essays. Of course, there are some words like that. But if your vocabulary usage, if your advanced vocabulary usage is not consistent, you will not get a good grade, basically. So I would try to read as many essays as possible and learn from them, learn those words, and try to incorporate them in my essay later on. Hope that answers your question. And lastly, for grammatical range and accuracy, we need to use a lot of different sentence types. For example, we need to use simple sentences as well as compound sentences, which include two ideas connected to each other with and, for, yet, but, so, or, and nor. Or we need to use complex sentences, which we will kind of look at in detail. And we will need to use passive sentences, question sentences, and conditional sentences consisting of modals and if clauses, for example. So let's look at the complex sentences for a bit. While while writing complex sentences, we need to include these different conjunction words, linking words, which are, for example, after, although, as, because, before, even if, and also other relative clauses and noun clauses such as whether, who, or whereas, where, when, and etc. So basically, when you form sentences using these structures, these linking words, you will be forming complex sentences, which will help you with your band score in grammatical range and accuracy. Let's move on to how we should write our essay if you have no questions regarding the criteria. And Arslan, I see you want some vocabulary word suggestions. What we can do, as I've explained just a minute ago maybe, what we can do is we can read different essays and we can look for words, advanced vocabulary from those essays, and we can take notes of that and use them in our essays later on. So basically, if your advanced vocabulary usage is not consistent, you will not get a good score at the end. So what I would do if I were you guys, I would try to learn as many advanced vocabulary as possible by reading different essays. I hear someone muted themselves. Do you have a question, or is that by mistake? I think that's by mistake. I'm going to turn your mic off. So let's move on to how we write discussion essays. Basically, what we do is we write an introduction first, which should start with paraphrasing the statement given to us in the question. So basically, every question in IELTS writing exam, they give you a explanation sentence at the beginning of. Sorry, I see someone unmuted themselves again. Do you have any questions, or is that by mistake? All right, I think that's by mistake. All right, so I want to just come back a bit to the introduction part. So basically, every question in IELTS writing gives you an information sentence. And in the introduction paragraph, the first thing that you should do is to paraphrase that statement, that information sentence given to you. And you need to state your two supporting reasons of that statement. But of course, those supporting reasons does not mean that you need to support the given idea. What we mean by that is you need to support your own opinion, your own idea, basically. And lastly, you need to state your opinion, say that you agree or disagree or whatever with that information, and then we can move on to body paragraphs. So you need to write two body paragraphs. And in the first one, you need to write your topic sentence as a first sentence, and you need to write about one side of the argument. So basically, in essays, you get two sides. So you can agree with either of them, it doesn't matter. But you need to talk about each side in different body paragraphs. So, for example, if you write on the topic A, for example, in the first body paragraph, you need to write on the topic B, the other side, on the second body paragraph. And for each body paragraph, for each side of the argument, you need to give your reasons and examples, and you really need to provide detailed explanations to those ideas. And in the conclusion, you need to rewrite the statement. So basically, remember we paraphrased the statement in the introduction. We will do the same. We will paraphrase that statement again, and we will summarize our key points, and we will again talk about our own opinion in just one word. So basically, our introduction and conclusion can consist only 3 sentences, but really complex sentences, and our body paragraphs should be around maybe 8 sentences or so. Do you have any questions regarding the organization of your essay? And remember, this is really, really important because it's one of the 4 criteria that IELTS looks for. Any questions on the organization? So in total, you need to have 4 different paragraphs. And you need to
How can we summarize the key points, please?
How can we summarize the key points? Really good question. What you can do is basically, if you want to not think about it so much, you can paraphrase your topic sentences. That's a really good, I think, tip. So basically, in the topic sentence, we say we write about one side, right? And we will also need to state our reasons for supporting that side in the first sentence. And if we paraphrase those topic sentences in the conclusion, we will actually be summarizing our key points, basically. There's also another question in the chat box. Let me see. Do we need to keep subheadings as intro, body paragraph, and conclusion?
Ma'am,
Oh, no.
would you don't mind? Where the summary is key point and my opinion, that will if that will be same, is it fault or any difficulty?
So if you write the same sentence again in the conclusion, that will not be something that's wrong. So they're not gonna make you lose any points for that. But you will also not gain any points from that because you basically show the examiner nothing different. So in IELTS writing exam, what we need to do is we need to always come up with new ways of saying the same things because that shows our paraphrasing skills. That shows the examiner that we know a lot of different vocabularies and grammatical structures. So that will not make you gain any points, basically. So maybe in that way, it makes you lose some points. And I will answer Baga's question on the chat box first, and then we can maybe come back to this. And by the way, you will also learn how to summarize your key points and everything that we've just talked about in a second while we write an essay together and read an example essay together. Maybe that will answer your question more in detail, hopefully. And Baga, you asked me if you need to keep the subheadings as intro, main paragraph 1, 2, and conclusion. No, you don't need to give subheadings. Basically, you will need to write 4 different paragraphs, but you don't have to give them headings. So don't say, for example, introduction and write your introduction. You just need to write your introduction and that's it. Any other questions on the organization, not the actual sentences? If yes, you can use the chat box or you can raise your hand and ask for permission to speak. I will give you permission to speak. All right, if not, before we move on to the sentences, the example essays, let's talk about 3 mistakes common in IELTS discussion essays. So basically, in IELTS discussion essays, they give you 2 sides of an argument, and they want you to talk about both of those sides and then give your opinion. And one of the common mistakes that the test takers do is not to give their opinion. I know this is saying people are stating their opinion, but it should actually be people are not stating their opinion. So not stating your opinion is a huge mistake in discussion essays because the question clearly asks you to give your opinion, which you will see in a second. But basically, giving 2 sides of the argument and not stating your opinion, and stating your opinion would be the right way to go in discussion essays. And the second mistake people usually do is not giving arguments for both of the views. So as I've said, you're given 2 different views and you need to talk about both of them in detail in different paragraphs. And lastly, people usually do not develop both sides of the argument equally. What you need to do is you need to talk about them. For example, if you talk about them for 5 sentences for one of them, you need to talk about the second one for 5 sentences as well. Basically, you need to give each of them equal reasons, explanations, and supporting ideas. So while giving your opinion, sometimes my students ask me if their opinion matter. And basically, IELTS does not care about your opinion at all. I'm sorry to say this, but it doesn't matter which side you take. What matters is that you support that idea or view really clearly and equally. But it doesn't matter whether you agree with the statement or disagree with the statement. It doesn't really matter. They don't look for that. They only look for how you explain your ideas, basically. All right. If you have any questions, you can ask me right now. Oh, my voice is interrupting.
Ma'am, would you repeat these sections again, please?
All right, this section, I will summarize it really quickly. Can you hear me clearly right now? Yes? All right. All right, perfect. So basically, there are 3 mistakes common in IELTS discussion essays, and these are not stating your opinion, not giving enough arguments for both views, and not developing both sides of the argument equally. So basically, you need to give your opinion, you need to address both views, you need to talk about both
Ma'am,
views.
please. Your voice come to us in interrupting ways. Can
Really?
you reset this?
Let me turn off my mic and back on, and let me log out of Wi-Fi from all my devices. Maybe that helps. How is it right now? Is it better? Hopefully.
Yes.
Yes, is it better? All right. So you can hear every word that I'm saying? Hopefully. Yeah?
It's clear now.
All right, all right. Sorry about that. Let me talk about the common mistakes once more. Sorry for taking your time. So there are three mistakes common in IELTS discussion essays. And the first one is not stating your opinion. I know this one says people are stating their opinion, but we forgot the not there. So basically, the first mistake is not giving your opinion. You need to give your opinion clearly because the question asks for your opinion. And you need to also give arguments for both views. Basically, in discussion essays, you're given both sides of an argument, and you need to talk about both of them in different paragraphs. And lastly, you need to talk about both of those sides, both of those opposing views equally. So, for example, if you write two supporting ideas for one side of the argument, you need to also write two supporting ideas for the other argument. And it doesn't really matter which side you take. IELTS does not look for specific ideas. IELTS only looks for if you can support your own idea and support different ideas equally. So it doesn't matter whether you agree or disagree with the topic. You just need to state your position, but it doesn't matter which position you take, basically. Are there any questions regarding these three common mistakes? So basically, this really affects your task achievement score. So if you don't state your opinion or don't discuss both views or don't discuss both of those views equally, you will get a lower score in terms of task achievement. And if there are no questions, and if you can hear me clearly, let's move on to our next page. All right. So this is an example of how discussion essay questions are asked. You get a question like this. So it says, you should spend about 40 minutes on this, write about the following topic, and they give you, as I've said before, an information sentence. And in this case, our information is some people think that youngsters should get involved in unpaid work, while others oppose it as it may affect their careers. So our question asks us to discuss both sides. As you can see, it asks us clearly to discuss both sides and give our opinion. So we need to do those. And it says, give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge and experience. And we need to write at least 250 words. Before we move on to the details and how we write the essay, I want to talk about the word limit a bit. So basically, you need to write more than 250 words, but there is no upper word limit. Still, I would advise you to write no more than 350 words because you only get 40 minutes for this task. And in that 40 minutes, we need to both plan, organize, write, and proofread our essay. If we don't proofread, we can make some mistakes that are really simple, actually. Like we can say he are instead of he is, and that reduces our points a lot. What we can do is we can write less than 350 words, and then we can have enough time to proofread our essay. So basically, don't write a lot. It doesn't make you gain any extra points for writing too much. All right, so let's talk about this, our information sentence. There's a question before that on the chat box. Does capital letters, full stops, commas, small letters, etc. affect that word limit? I think that's the question. No, it doesn't. So basically, saying small like this or small like this does not affect anything. And if you take the computer-based exam, you can see the word count on the screen. So you'll be able to write. You will be able to tell how long you're writing if you're taking the computer-based exam, which is, I think, really good for the writing part of the IELTS, because you can simply correct your mistake very easily, as opposed to the handwriting, which is, I think, harder to correct. All right. Let's move on to this then. So let's read our question again. So it said, some people think that youngsters should get involved in unpaid work, so they shouldn't be paid and they should still work there, while others oppose it as it may affect their careers. What do you think? Now, let's talk about this. And I want you to use the chat box for it. You can use the chat box for this. What are the two sides we can write about, and how can we support those ideas? Remember, we need to talk about both sides, and we need to support both sides. We need to give examples for both sides, even if we agreed with them or disagree with them. We need to support both ideas. Is my voice breaking again? Can you hear me? Yeah? All right. All right. If the majority of you can hear me clearly, that's good. So let's use the chat box to talk about what we can write to support these two different ideas, and let's come up with an overall outline together. And there's a question. While you're doing that, there's a question on the chat box. I will answer that, but you can start typing your answers, typing your ideas, and how we can support these two statements. So Gothami asks, from paragraph to paragraph, is it necessary to give tab space? Yes, it's. I would say it helps the examiner a lot, because then we can know where a paragraph starts and where a paragraph ends. But basically, what you can do is you can write this like this, and also this like this. So you can basically just skip one paragraph, something like that, and you don't have to give tab space if you do it like this. But you can also do it like this, so it doesn't really matter. All right. Oh, I couldn't delete it. Yeah. All right. I'm waiting for your supporting ideas for both sides of this information. How can we support, let's say, people in unpaid work, the young in unpaid work? What can be the advantages of this, for example? We need to support this, so we need to say young people should work in unpaid jobs. How can we say that? So how can we support that? How can we give examples? We can also use our own experience, and we can also lie, because the examiners don't know anything about us, so they won't be able to tell that we were lying. Let's support why young people should do unpaid work. I'll wait. Is this a hard topic for you, do you think? What can be some of the advantages of this? Young people working, but still not getting paid. Do we always work to get paid? Yes, it's hard. Um, I would agree with you, I think. I think it's a rather hard question, but in discussions essays, they are usually kind of hard, because they are both sides of the same argument, and we sometimes cannot find arguments for the side that we're not taking, but we need to be able to do it regardless. So let's try this. Yes, Gothami says, oh, there are a lot of answers. I'm happy. So Gothami says we can get experience from unpaid work, which is really, really good. We can learn new skills. Yes. Yes, we can improve our skills. We can do part-time work to get experience. Yes. So I think we get some really good supporting ideas right now. So we can get experience and learn new skills. And what does getting experience or learning new skills help us with? So we need to be able to give explanations to our supporting ideas and also examples. Let's do these, let's support these two arguments. So, how does getting experience or learning new skills help us? And what can be some of the examples of this? And there's a answer in the chat box. If youngsters involved in unpaid works, they will learn how to be kind-hearted. Yes, so they can learn um, kind-heartedness. How can they learn this, and how will this help them, basically? Let's talk about the how question a bit. And Gothami says communication improves sharing ideas to develop a career. So yes, we can learn how to communicate in a like work environment, right? Which really improves our skills in terms of corporate life. Yes, and we can share ideas. I think communicating is also a supporting idea for getting experience. And when we gain new experiences, let's change this to gaining experience. When we gain new experiences, we can put them on our CVs, right? So we can improve our CV, which can help us with our applications, job applications later in life. That could be a good way of, I think, supporting that idea. Yes, as Bhagia said, with experience, they can ease their work in the future, yes. And M. Farouk says they will learn better from their mistakes, and further, when they will start official job, they will start with, yes, so definitely. So they can learn from their mistakes, which can help them in their career later on. All right, I think we've supported this one really well. Let's talk about the second argument. How can we support the second idea? So let's remember that others oppose this idea, people working for no money, as it may affect their careers. How does this affect their career? Probably negatively. Improve the values for the societies. Yes, I think we can put them here. Improve values for society. Improve values, I think would be all right. All right. What about the second one? How it may affect the young people's careers working unpaid. We've talked about the positive sides. How can it negatively affect their career? Yes, we can support our family too. I think that would I don't know how that would kind of resonate with what we're writing. So basically, what I understand from this question is that other people oppose this idea, so people working in unpaid works, because unpaid jobs, working in unpaid jobs, may affect their career negatively. That's what I understand, because it's the opposing side of this argument. So it's not like people are working, the young are working for money. It's like they shouldn't work in unpaid work. So Hossein says they will be reluctant to that kind of work, which they experienced recently. So yes, so they can, for example, if we work in, let's say, marketing for free, someone unmuted themselves. Okay, that was my mistake. So, for example, if someone, let's say, worked in marketing for free, later on they might kind of resent that job. So they might think that they don't like that job, but it's only because they're exhausted from working for no money. Maybe that can be something, yes. So I think maybe bad experiences, we can summarize it like that. So they can not like the job later on. Yes, what about another? So because we wrote two supporting ideas for the first body paragraph, we need to write two for this one too. What can be a disadvantage, a negative side of working for free. Let's think on the safe side and say we're not getting paid, right? So not getting paid can affect our career because we need the money and we might kind of not do our own jobs because we cannot get paid, maybe. Or yes, I think that's a really good argument, by the way, as Pema or Uchang says, we have pressure with our studies when we work for free, right? And as a result, because we need to talk about how it affects our careers, maybe as a result, we may not even graduate and not be able to get a career out of it, maybe. Or yes, they can lose their willpower to be advanced. So losing willpower, yes. And Farouk asks, it's just the beginning of their career, so how can it affect their career? I completely agree with you. I'm finding it, I'm finding it hard to kind of find arguments for this one too, because it's not a side that I kind of support. So it's really, really hard to come up with ideas for these kind of questions, but we need to do it regardless. So there's also another thing saying career may start by doing internships, and internships have some paid a little. Yes, and it helps their career development. And without receiving money in return will affect the quality of the work. Yes, so it will affect affect the quality of the work. Yes, I think those are really good arguments. I think we've come up with kind of enough supporting ideas. So thank you for your participating. I think that was really, really helpful. And while you get a question in IELTS writing, what you need to do when you first see the question is to do the exact same thing that we're doing right now. So we need to create an outline. An outline basically helps you with your organization of the essay. And if you have a good organization, as you know by now, we will get good band scores from coherence and cohesion, and also task achievement because we're having like these really different and good supporting ideas. And when you see the question and start your outline, you can actually think for maybe 3 to 5 minutes on your outline. So then you won't have to worry about what you're writing. You will just need to worry about the grammar and vocabulary, which will help you a lot actually, because you won't be thinking about what you're going to write because the arguments are right here in front of you. You will just worry about how to write it, right? I think that helps you a lot. What I would advise you to do if you're new to writing essays and forming outlines, I would suggest you to kind of practice forming outlines and writing from those outlines. And you will experience firsthand that it really makes a difference in terms of how you write and what you write, basically. My voice is not clear again. Is this the same for everyone? Should I unmute and mute and unmute? How is it right now? It's clear? All right, good. I'm sorry for that. There must be something wrong with my internet connection today. This doesn't happen to me. Sorry for that. All right. Let's now move on to the introduction. Remember, in the introduction, we need to paraphrase the statement. We will have to say this essay will discuss these two sides and say which sides they are. And we will state our opinion. Let's read this introduction together. So, people have different opinions about whether youngsters should get involved in unpaid social work. Did you realize that this sentence is a summary of the first part of our information sentence? And while summarizing that, this sentence does not change a few things. So, for example, it doesn't change the word youngsters, and it also doesn't change the word unpaid work or should. Basically, what you need to do is you need to summarize the statement as best as you can, and you don't have to worry about like changing every single word as we have talked about before. And to summarize this, sorry, to paraphrase the second part, it says, while some insist it benefits young people, others argue it will hurt their career prospects. So it stated both sides of the opinion, right? And then we need to give our opinion, saying that, in my opinion, it clearly makes sense for youngsters to engage in some community work during their free time. However, they should not allow volunteering to take their focus off their career goals. And Japal says, yes, the word social is not mentioned in the question, yes, but it basically this essay will basically talk about social work, so voluntary work, where you don't necessarily work in your own job, but basically you will be volunteering, for example, for animal shelters or human rights organizations and stuff like that. This essay will take the question from that side, basically. So that's why it can add unpaid social work. Any questions about the introduction before we move on? I think all of you can do this
Ma'am,
really
could you
easily.
repeat please again?
Should I repeat the social part? Are you asking that?
Introduction. Introduction.
The introduction as a whole? All right. Um, so basically, in the introduction paragraph, we need to first paraphrase the statement, discuss both sides. We need to say we will discuss both sides of the argument, and we need to give our opinion. Basically, what we wrote was people have different opinions about whether youngsters should get involved in unpaid social work. So we summarized the first information here, saying some people think that youngsters should get involved in unpaid work. And we then later paraphrased this statement altogether, saying, while some insist it benefits young people, others argue it will hurt their career prospects. So we paraphrased the statement and we gave both sides of the argument. And lastly, in the introduction paragraph, as the last sentence, we give our opinion, saying, in my opinion, it certainly makes sense for youngsters to engage in some community work during their free time. However, they should not allow volunteering to take their focus off their career goals. So basically, this essay will support that both sides are correct to some extent, but they should not let that volunteering job to affect their career goals, basically. Any questions about the introduction paragraph?
Ma'am, if paraphrase it says the statements, you give me example of how to prephrase the statement.
So paraphrasing basically means writing the same thing in different words or grammatical structures. So basically, what we read here, for example, here, is a paraphrased version of this statement. So we've kind of already talked about the paraphrased version example, actually, because paraphrasing basically means uh, giving the same meaning using different vocabularies and grammatical structures. And as you can see here, we may not even sometimes change some of the words because not all words have synonyms or not all words have different opinions, different ways of saying it, right? So we kind of change the structure of it, or we change the words that we can change, and that is paraphrasing. Does that answer your question? Hopefully. Yes? No? All right. Any other questions? All right, good that you understood. If there are no other questions, let's move on to our body paragraph. So let's remember what we need to do in the body paragraph. In the first sentence, we need to write our topic sentence, which is introducing one side of the argument. Then we need to give reasons and examples, and we need to write the conclusion for that specific paragraph. So let's read our example essay. We can say young people reap many benefits when they engage in unpaid work for the underprivileged sections of society. So basically, in the first sentence, this essay clearly states what this paragraph will be about, which is the benefits of unpaid work, right? Yes, then which is our topic sentence. Then we need to give examples, explanations, supporting arguments. Let's read how we give them. So helping people in need allows them to see the various aspects of life, and when they realize that many people around them do not even have the basic necessities of life, they will learn to count their blessings. So this is a rather long sentence, right? And it basically supports the idea that is just presented to us. It gives the first reason why doing unpaid work actually helps people. And it says helping those who are more unfortunate than us, in more unfortunate conditions than us, we can see different aspects of life. So we can see and realize that there are other people living in different circumstances. And it says, in addition, volunteering is an excellent opportunity to gain valuable work experience. They can mention these stints in their resume when it is time to apply for a job. Remember, this was one of our arguments. This was one of our supporting ideas when we were uh, like forming our outline. So well done on that. Then it says companies will opt for youngsters who have done some community work than hiring someone with no volunteering experience. Better still, the satisfaction they get from doing something for the betterment of society is immense. So, this two sentences at the end, the first one actually kind of supports why putting something like this on our resume affects our career positively. And the last sentence, as you can see, kind of gives like an overall concluding argument, saying that the satisfaction we get from something like this actually exceeds all of the other benefits, the benefits that we're talking about, because it's something that's good for the society. What are the examples in the paragraph? That's a really good question. So while giving an example, we don't have to always say, for example, or for instance, or to exemplify, or stuff like that. Basically, an example means giving like a specific instance where you're talking about that same thing, basically. So let's find the examples here. For example, here, saying they can mention these in their resume when it's time to apply for a job basically gives like a specific instance where this helps us, right? So giving this specific instance is actually giving an example. And also saying that companies look for people who do volunteer work instead of people with no volunteering skills. So these specific instances basically are examples of this paragraph. But you can also give your examples saying like, for example, I worked in this place and that place. Not so one is not better than the other. They both give the examiner some examples, and you can do whichever one you choose. But this one comes up like just a bit more academic because it's able to talk about an idea with different words rather than just saying, for example. But of course, we will use that too. Let's read this main paragraph, for example. And this is the other side of the argument. Remember, we need to write about the one side of the argument in one paragraph and the other side in the other paragraph. Let's read how that goes. On the flip side, and this is a really, really important part of giving two ideas, while starting the idea that opposes the one that we have talked about a bit ago, we need to give a opposing linking word. So basically, we need to say something like, however, on the other hand, or nevertheless, nonetheless, or on the flip side, which indicates to the examiner that we're starting to talk about the other side of the argument, which helps you with your task achievement and coherence and cohesion. On the flip side, if a youngster gives too much importance on community work, he may lose focus on his studies. So we don't want the young person who is doing the volunteering work to not give importance to his studies. This, in turn, will hurt his career prospects. In the highly competitive job market, it is impossible to find good job opportunities if you don't have a university degree with good grades. However, not doing unpaid work is not the solution to this problem. Rather, youngsters should have a clear idea of what they want to achieve in life. They should volunteer only during their free time. So remember, the other side of the argument was that this doesn't affect their career in a good way. So this paragraph talks about that, like why it cannot be good for their careers. And it cannot be good for their career if it affects their studies and if it affects their basically academic record, their grades. So what they should do is they should only volunteer during their free time. So this paragraph is a really good paragraph because again, it gives specific examples like here, and it kind of explains, supports why this can be a disadvantage for those people because, in good detail. So it also says not doing the unpaid work is also a problem because they need to kind of gain experience. So they should only volunteer in their free time. So it provides a clear stance and it sticks with it, as you can see. Is there any questions as to how we write these two opposing sides? Any questions so far? If not, we will go on to the conclusion paragraph. All right, let's move on to the conclusion paragraph. So in the conclusion, we need to rewrite the statement. We need to include the two sides. We need to talk about both of those sides, and we need to give our opinion. You can do this either in 3 different sentences or 2 or just 1 sentence. I would say writing more than 3 sentences is too much for a conclusion because in the conclusion paragraph, and this is very, very important, you cannot give any new ideas. You need to only summarize what you have already written. So, for example, in our example conclusion, we say, in conclusion, to indicate that we're in the conclusion paragraph right now, doing unpaid community work allows young people to gain valuable work experience and better perspectives on life. However, they must ensure that the community work does not distract them from their career goals. So basically, our opinion is that we want people to uh, gain experience and better perspectives by doing unpaid work. But while doing that, they should also focus on their studies and get good grades still. All right, let's see the essay as a whole. Yes. So this essay will probably get something like a band 9 or 8 or 8.5, but it's definitely more than 8 for for different reasons. I will talk about that in a second, but Arslan asks, can we share the notes in PDF format? I think we can. I don't know if we can. I'm sorry. But you can re-watch this video anytime on YouTube. You can just type Clasital Live Lessons on YouTube and you will see that we upload all our classes there. And you can read this anytime you want by pausing the video. And you can also take a screenshot right now, which is also allowed. And I see Muhammad Ali raising your hand. You can speak now. Oh, when did we start?
Hello.
So we started 55 minutes ago. So this class is almost over. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's okay. Go on.
So we can maybe meet later on in different classes. But as I
Yeah,
was
sure. Yeah, I
you
remember you.
you can watch any of these videos, any of these classes online on our YouTube channel, writing Clasital Live Lessons, and you will be able to
Ma'am,
watch.
would you repeat the last 5 minutes sessions? Please, I
Yeah.
cannot hear this because my laptop lights has turned off.
All right, I'm
The
sorry
power
for
is
that.
turned off.
I think in the last 5 minutes, what we did was we read this essay, especially the conclusion part, I think specifically. Um, and also, I kind of talked about what you need to do in the conclusion paragraph, which is you shouldn't write more than 3 sentences, and you should not give you should not give new information on the conclusion. And then we talked about some of the questions that your friends asked me. And also, I'm repeating this for the third time, I'm sorry, but you can watch any of the classes online on our YouTube channel, which is, if you type Clasital Live Lessons on our YouTube channel, on YouTube, you can watch any of these classes and you will be able to learn everything, basically. How can you practice in Clasital Library, which related to writing? So basically, on our webpage, you can look at the library, and there's like a part that says writing, and there are a lot of videos for task 1 and task 2. You can check all of them, any of them, basically. YouTube channel name is Clasital, so our basically name, our company's name. So if you write Clasital, you will be able to see our YouTube channel. Yes, and
Ma'am, will we find today's session in the YouTube channel?
Yes, you will. I don't know if it's like today, but you will be able to watch this. Any other questions? All right. So I'm now sending you a survey link on our chat box. I would be really glad if you could fill that survey up. And I think someone is unmuted. Do you have any questions for me, Syra? I think that's by mistake, so I'm going to turn your mic off. I'm sorry. You can watch any of the videos on the link that we provided you. Let me read other messages. So if you try without video and just only share screen, there will be no problem with voice. Without video. We'll take that into consideration. I will talk about this with other teachers, and let's see how it goes. Let me stop YouTube screen share. Yes. How can we read vocabulary, ma'am? How can you read vocabulary? Do you want to ask me how you can improve your use of vocabulary? Is that it? Oh, okay. So what you can do is you can, for example, take notes of the words that you don't know in this essay and in any essay or practice that you're doing, actually. So if you listen to anything, read anything, or like in a speaking session or reading other people's essays or example essays, what you can do is you can always have a notepad ready with you, or maybe you have a notes app on your computer or telephone. It doesn't really matter. Take notes of the words that you don't know, and always try to use them in your speaking, writing, daily conversations, whatever, or while you're recording yourself or practicing writing essays. So basically, try to learn every new vocabulary that you face, every new vocabulary that you see anywhere. And as you try to use them in your own writing, you will, of course, first look at them, right, to be able to use them because you're just learning them. But as you use them in your essay, you will find out that after a few tries and practices, you won't have to look at the essay. Sorry, you won't have to look at the notes. You will just be able to remember them as you practice. And Gotami asks, can I tell any restrictions that cannot write in the essay? So you can write I or my or whatever because the question asks for your opinion and your experiences. So there is no restriction on using I or my or something like that. Mm, but also, I wouldn't advise you to kind of use those really daily language, basically. So, for example, I wouldn't use idioms that much. I wouldn't use, for example, I would use I, but not so much. I wouldn't give every example with I or from my experience. I would also show the examiner that I'm capable of giving different examples in different ways. So basically, whatever you do, uh, don't repeat it. Try not to repeat it that much because repeating the same thing will not make you gain any points, but writing something in different ways will make you gain a lot of points. And can we have a practice test session with me someday? We're working on that. So we're working on some different some things that you are asking from us. Uh, you'll be able to find out what we can do and cannot do from our webpage really soon. So we're working on that. Anna, thank you for your contribution. You have a nice evening too. Any other questions? By the way, don't forget to fill out the survey form before you leave. My name is Gizem, and as I've said, we take your notes and your opinions into consideration a lot, and we're trying to change and add new things from your feedback. So I would be really happy if you filled that form up.
Ma'am, would you don't mind from which country you are running this session?
I'm from Turkey, and I live in Turkey at the moment.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's it. Can I share my notes? So maybe write your email for those of you who want the notes on this. You can write your email, and I will ask my friends, other teachers, if we are sharing these, then maybe we can send them to you. Um, how can I improve my punctuations as I find it difficult to practice by only reading the guidelines? So you can improve your punctuation by actually studying for grammar. I'm sorry, but that's kind of more or less the only way. And you should try to, I think, memorize how a few things are used. And what I would do, I would kind of learn a few linking words that will help me write a more academic essay. And I would learn how they're used. So are they used with a comma? Are they used with one sentence, or do they get two sentences? I would learn a few of them, and I would use them in my essays. And in that way, again, as you practice, you will learn, you will be able to remember how they're used without actually looking at them. Let me get your mails. I'm not, by the way, promising you that we can send you notes. That's not up to me. I'm sorry. I will talk to my supervisors, and if they let me, we can share our notes. But yeah. Any other questions? I will send the survey link just one last time. And thank you for joining this class. If you have no other questions, I hope to see you again next week. We also have other classes on the weekdays, like listening, reading, writing, whatever, speaking. You can join any of them, any of the ones that you want. And thank you all for joining. Hope to see you. Bye.
Thanks, ma'am.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that. Really
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Thank you. Let me get these mails one last time. Yeah. All right.